JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. September 27th. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Going to talk really quick about the markets, some of the names I'm looking at and go from there. But PCE data came out this morning, a tad cooler than expected, I guess. I mean, you take out energy and what have you, actually increased on a year-over-year basis. But based on estimates and the core number they look at, it came in slightly lower than expectations, down from 2.5 to 2.3 on a month-over-month basis. So not much. I don't think much changes with the Fed. It just kind of just adds more rationale for them to continue on their cutting rates, right? So not much to talk about there. Overnight, there's more shenanigans in Asia. China continues on this stimulus plan, and you have these folks talking about the bazooka stimulus. And back Japan had lost decades of growth. They you used to have the former, may he rest in peace, Abe. He used to do bazooka style stimulus, and same with Mario Draghi in the EU. They used to talk about some of the stimulus they used to do, especially in 2014 when we had Eurozone issues. Uh, but now they're saying China's doing some kind of bazooka stimulus. But either way, we'll have to see if this holds up. I mean, it's easy to be skeptical on some of these China ADRs rallying because we've seen this before, and then only to see the gains in Baba and Baidu and some of these other names just go back to where they were trading after these moves higher. Maybe this is the one that sticks. But we'll have to see. Anyway, so take a look at the markets. I thought 271 on the SPY was gonna, 571 on the SPY was gonna be support yesterday. It actually broke and we hit 570 before bouncing. So that looks like support if we find some weakness today. And then on the flip side, that 575 handle looks like resistance. And then next week we get the jobs report. And there's a piece, I don't know if it was in the Wall Street Journal, about how the moves on data points. Like it seems like these days, every data point that used to be not as important have become important, like the JOLTS report, consumer confidence, and all that stuff. So we'll see how the jobs report comes out next week. Hopefully it's somewhat in line and the markets can kind of find some footing. And then we have earnings season the next week with the banks. So that's kind of the overall markets. The good thing today, and I want to say the good thing today, it looks like small, and this changes frequently, and it can small caps move pretty quickly and they can have some wild swings. But the small cap futures are up 1% right now, where the S&P futures are up about 0.1%. So maybe this is the day it starts to outperform and that trend can continue. I would love that. All right, so that's that. That's overall market. Let's look at some individual names. And I talked about on a rant yesterday afternoon around Baidu. I already locked some of my calls in for 700, 800%. I mean, it sounds crazy to hold some of those, the rest overnight, because with the China names, it's almost like it's binary. The whatever the Asian markets do overnight is how Baidu and Bob and some of these China ADRs will trade the next day. It could have been down 5% or up 5%. Thankfully, markets held their ground. Baidu and Baba are gapping up a little higher here at the open. I'll probably lock some more of the Baidu in just to lock more profits in and just hold a couple into next week. The concern here, I forgot to talk about this. Japan had their election for a new prime minister, and the prime minister is probably not the best for markets. And Nikkei futures are already down over 2%. There's probably gonna be a lot of rumbling over the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nikkei down quite a bit on Monday. I don't know if that's going to impact the overall markets, but I think what's going on in China probably more than compensates for that. So there's talks. This new prime minister is very fiscal restraint, taxing, things that are not the best, not most conducive for market gains. But rants for other days. All right, so keep that in the back head over the weekend. If you see, you'll probably see some headlights. All right, so I'll lock some of the Baidu in at the open again, just to cover more profits, and then hold the rest into next week. And also, I might look for some more strikes. If it gets over 105, 105 looks like a key resistance area. We hit that one. Well, actually, we hit 107 back in July, or came close to it. If we get through that, maybe I'll look for some more strikes to play from move to 110, 115. Some spec calls, though, inexpensive ones. So that's Baidu. Great to finally pay dirt this week on Baidu. Corbis rallied all the way up to 23.33 in the morning, about 10:30. I used to move to lock some of my 25 strikes in for 100% to cover costs. I also went and added some October 30s. I think this trade's over $30 in the coming weeks, especially as more attention comes to it. I think people just thought it was a weight loss drug company, right? That is still preclinical. They don't even have phase 1, phase 2 study yet, where it's completely different than that. And they have they're going to be speaking at a conference in October in regards to the oncology side, which again, It's 200 something million dollar market cap. That their 701 drug is probably more than enough for that valuation, if not substantially higher valuation. So not going to talk too much about corporates, but really like that one for upside, $30 in the coming weeks. Redfin, finally, I mean, you look at the daily chart on Redfin, it's had higher highs and higher lows since August. And we all the way up to 10, down to 6 back at the end of August, all the way up to 15, now down to 1193 yesterday. And then we had that big bounce yesterday afternoon from 1193 all the way up to 13 in a matter of less than 2 hours. Hopefully that's the bottom here, and you can see it's gapping up a little bit here in the pre-market is 13.15. Once that breaks $15, I'll add more strikes. I think $15, 17.60, and then I think it's over $20 in the coming weeks. SE up, I think it's 8 sessions in a row to the upside now for SE. Still holding my October strikes. I already locked a lot of those in. I was looking for more calls to play for a move over $100 and then possibly to 110. I'll just hold the Octobers for now. Have plenty of time. The monthly strikes, and then if there's some weakness, then I'll use that as an opportunity to add some later dated strikes to play for that move over 100. I put Win on the watch list. Win used to be one of my favorites back in the day. And you take a look, the stock has been just bleeding since April, all the way up to 110, down to 75, like a slow, methodical sell-off. And then obviously with the China news this week, Win's going nuts. But a large majority of their revenues, profits are derived from Macau over in Asia. So all the way up to its 200-day moving average, $93. I think it started the week under 80. Could be one of those names got upgraded this morning. Could be a name that I look for some spec calls today, or maybe some calls into next week, especially if this rally continues into next week. So Win is one of those names kind of under the radar that I might look to trade some spec calls on. And then the IBB. So IBB still struggling to find footing. Actually closed up 1% yesterday, which is good, which brings me to Biogen. And I'm kicking myself here. Biogen's, I mean, it's not gapping up too much here, but I was looking to get some calls yesterday. It rallied over 2% from its multi-year lows, and then it's up again here in the pre-market. I may look for some calls to play for a move over $200 in the next week or two, and possibly maybe some November strikes to encompass earnings at the end of the month. I added some spec calls on DELL into next week, right? So Super Micro, we were chatting in the chat room yesterday. It's not the most apples for apples competitor, but I just think any negative stigma on anybody in that space bodes well for DELL. DELL had a tweet yesterday afternoon in regards to a October 10th meeting they're going to have, or join them for a meeting with NVIDIA. I look at it, it's fine. Looks like it's breaking out. Looks like it hasn't hit levels hasn't been up here since July. I think it trades over $130 in the coming days. I'll continue to look for opportunities to play that one for upside. That's DELL. I don't really want to talk about Turn here, but it's down 6 days in a row. I'm kind of maybe open to adding some calls here if it finds some support, because the premiums have eroded from the calls. They open those November strikes, so maybe I'll look to get some November strikes if it finds some footing. Just want to see it hold. The 50-day moving average is 826, so if we can hold that, I think that'll bode well. And then last but not least, Roku. I added some calls last week into this week, and then the stock just laid an egg after testing $80 last Thursday. Well, actually, I think it hit $79.99, and all the way down to 71 and change yesterday morning about 11. Found a bid and a quick $2 shot up $2 from that low all the way up to 73.50. Maybe this is it, just the bottom. Don't be surprised if I add some calls into next week as well in Roku, because I think at some point it's over $80. And possibly starts to look to fill that gap that's over in the 90s from back in the early spring. And I think that's it, folks. We got about 25 minutes to the open. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.